Welcome back to our donkey story time. Today we are going to check back in with Ralph in Runaway Ralph, and we'll see what's happening next in the story. I know we had just left off trying to figure out if Ralph truly was doomed or if we had guessed, where there's plenty more left in our story, and we actually know there's another story in the series too, that maybe things would turn out okay after all. We left off with, you'll remember, he was doomed to be a mid-morning snack for a cat. Luckily, Ralph did not have to make that decision. There was a sudden whacking noise on the fallen leaves, and a cloud of something light and soft settled over him. Then he found himself being tumbled about as he was lifted from the ground. Oops, sorry, my pages are stuck together. Are you going to help me? Thank you, Ollie. Good for you, Garth, said a woman's voice. What kind of butterfly did you catch? It isn't a butterfly, answered the boy. It's a mouse. I rescued him from Catso. By now, Ralph had managed to get his feet down and his head up and could see that he was suspended in the air in some sort of net. Through the mesh, he could see a plump, cheerful woman who was wearing slacks and a blouse. He could also see the boy, the same boy who had climbed through the Mountain View Inn in new cowboy boots, who was now holding him high up in the butterfly net. Better a net than a paw, thought Ralph, because he felt that where there was a boy, there was hope. Boys liked mice, right? A mouse? Exclaimed the woman. You caught a mouse in a butterfly net? Yes, answered the boy, and I'm going to keep him. Where? Wondered Ralph. In his pocket? Are you looking for him? He's not there, I promise. He hoped so. A boy's pocket was apt to be warm and dark and full of crumbs. The cat, cheated of his prey, stalked off with his tail in the air, trying to pretend in a most dignified manner that he didn't want that mouse anyway. Sounds just like a cat, right? Good, said the woman enthusiastically, surprising Ralph. All of the people he had known, the housekeeper, the maids, and guests of the hotel, they all referred to mice as nasty creatures or pesky rodents. Oh, poor thing. And from Ralph's point of view, he spent their time trying to outwit perfectly harmless little animals. We can find a place for him in our nature corner, suggested the woman, who Ralph decided must be Aunt Jill, that Sam had mentioned. Come on into the craft shop. I'm sure we'll have an old cage somewhere. Ralph was disappointed. He had looked forward to a dark and crummy pocket. At the same time, he was anxious. If he was to be trapped in a cage, how would he get back to his motorcycle? The screen door creaked as it was opened, and Ralph found himself looking through the net at a room with long work tables and walls lined with shelves full of boxes and jars and odds and ends. Seated on a bench were three girls who were busy braiding with long, thin straps of colored plastic. They appeared to ignore the boy until the woman rummaged around in the shelves and produced a small wire cage with an exercise wheel and a bottle for water fastened at one end. Suddenly, the girls were interested too. What's the cage for, Aunt Jill? Asked one of them, as all three jumped up in front of the bench. Garth caught a mouse in his butterfly net, explained Aunt Jill. He wants to keep it. In the butterfly net? The girls found this feat funny. Let me see, they begged. Ralph found himself being poked out of the net and into the cage. The door was closed behind him and fastened. He scurried behind the exercise wheel where he sat trembling, partly from fright and partly from relief at being safe from that cat. Isn't he darling? Cried the girls, their faces large and close to the cage bars. Isn't he sweet? Those teeny tiny ears. Look at those itsy bitsy paws. Ralph looked for help toward the boy who had stepped aside and now stood scowling beside the screen door. Aunt Jill, can we feed the mouse? Begged the girls. Please, let us feed him. Ralph turned his back and curled up into the smallest ball possible. The mouse belongs to Garfield, said Aunt Jill. He gets to feed his own mouse. Skip. Ralph thought Garf sounded angry. Do you think he's angry? He heard the boy's footsteps leave the craft shop and the screen door screech and slam as it opened and closed. What's the matter with him? Asked one of the girls, who sounded as if she did not really care. Girls, do you know what I think we should do? Asked Aunt Jill. I think we should all help Garfield enjoy camp. This is his first time away from home, and he doesn't know anyone here. I think he's lonely. But he's been mean to us, protested the girl with the sunburned nose. He just stays off by himself. There's nothing mean about that, Aunt Jill pointed out. I know, admitted the girl, but I don't know. Anyway, Garf is a funny name. Oh, not the most polite thing to say. Maybe he doesn't think so, said Aunt Jill. Ralph could feel one of the girls trying to poke her finger through the bars of the cage. At meals, he won't talk or sing, she said, jabbing Ralph with a stick. He just eats, and then he gets up and walks out. Boys, there's no arguing. No arguing during story time. Move along, buddy. Kids need to see, too. Move along, bud. Good boy. Sorry. Ralph tried to draw himself into a tighter ball. See, he's outside, just there, just standing there, said another girl. He practically never talks to anybody. Aunt Jill lifted Ralph's cage up onto a shelf in the corner near a window. Catching a mouse in a butterfly net is certainly doing something, she remarked. I think Garf should take care of the mouse. You agree, Milo? Ralph made up his mind not to budge. If he stayed perfectly still, sooner or later they would go away and let him enjoy peace and quiet in his nice soft cage. You agree too? No kisses during the story though, please. I'm trying to focus. We're reading right now. You can listen. He might even think of bringing the corner of a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Then Ralph would simply explain to Garf that he needed to get out of the cage because he had to take care of his motorcycle. He was quite sure that Garf would understand, for he looked like the kind of boy who was interested in speed and motorcycles, and who would know how to make a miniature motorcycle go. Now I'll start a little bit of chapter 4 for you, because chapter 4 will introduce a new character to us too. It's called Chum. We'll find out more about who that might be. When Ralph awoke, the camp was dark. Crickets chirped in the weeds outside the craft shop. In the distance, the frogs croaked, were suddenly silent, and then croaked again. Timidly, Ralph began to investigate his new home. Someone had supplied him with food and water. A piece of paper had been dropped thoughtfully in one corner. Knowing that he was safe from the cat, that catso, Ralph nibbled at some dried corn and lettuce leaf until his stomach was full. Then he shredded the paper, which was somewhat harder to chew than the Kleenex he had enjoyed at the Mountain View Inn, and he spread it around his cage before he summoned enough courage to explore his exercise wheel. Ralph climbed cautiously onto the wheel, which swung back and forth so alarmingly that he jumped right back off. He ran around his cage, examining the wheel from every angle. Deciding that the worst that could happen to him was falling off, Ralph tried again. This time, he stayed on the wheel, and when he became accustomed to the swinging motion, he tried a few cautious steps. The wheel spun pleasantly beneath his feet. Ralph ran faster. Oh, I'm sorry, we've got an itch. You got an itch, buddy? Did we get it? You got an itch? Okay, sorry. Itching emergency. We're back at it again. Ralph ran faster. The wheel increased his speed. Ralph raced as hard as he could run, and then he stopped. To his astonishment, the wheel continued to spin, and Ralph was carried completely around the circle, so that for an instant before he began his descent, he was upside down at the top of the wheel. It was a nice little loop-de-loop. This ride was fun. When Ralph had coasted to a stop, he began to run again so that he could spin around the full circle once more. Round and round went Ralph as the shadows in the craft shop faded. Spinning on a wheel was a dangerous and exciting thing, almost as exciting as riding a motorcycle. His motorcycle! Ralph leaped from his wheel to the side of the cage nearest the window. The rays of the rising sun slanted through the bamboo, but no matter how hard Ralph strained his eyes, he could not catch even a glimpse of the chrome or red metal. If only he had some way of knowing that his motorcycle was still hidden beneath the bamboo husk. An alarm went off in a lodge nearby, and a boy in rumpled pajamas stumbled out to blow the rousing bugle notes that brought the camp to life. Ralph busied himself scattering his shredded paper about his cage, nibbling his food, and racing his wheel. While the campers were in the dining hall eating breakfast, Garf slipped into the craft shop, checked on Ralph's food and water, and slipped out again so quickly that Ralph had only begun to summon his courage to speak. That's funny, thought Ralph. The boy acts as if he's doing something wrong. I wonder. I think he's doing anything wrong. I'm going to leave us hanging there for today. My friends clearly need all of our attention right now. So before I become their snack today, before we get any more itches, I'll go ahead and stop us there. We will check back in on our story tomorrow. And for now, keep up the great work in our Google Classroom, and I'll keep rolling out some new surprises for you this week. Onward and upward, my friends.